Alright, so I just got home, just came to the mailbox, and it looks like, you guys probably can't, oh you can see it now. It's another power supply, and that's all that's in there, no bills. Woohoo! Sometimes I wonder why I check the mail if I don't have money to pay the bills anyway. So, anyway, got a power supply, so obviously you guys know what I'm going to do with this, don't you? I'm going to use it on the prop car, I'm going to do it tonight. However, I also got everything to do the soldering tonight too, so I'll get to something, but right now, hungry, must eat. Catch you all in a bit. Alright guys, so it is like several hours later, and I just got through saying that the power supply, you know, I was going to use it on the prop car. Hello, McFly. This was, well, hopefully, I haven't even opened it yet, so you guys can see that. I haven't opened it. So, this is supposed to be the 2.5 amp power supply, which you guys know I can't use on the prop car because I've already used the 4 amp one that didn't work for the reverse light. I'm using that on the tail light. But I still want to make sure it works though. So I will take care of this another day because we're going to do some soldering. So yeah, awesome stuff. Power supply just like the old one, and the cable. And this is actually really cool because these power supplies that I'm getting have this kind of like an extension cord before it plugs into the power supply, because you guys know what the power strip looks like on the prop car. So this is nice and thin, so it can fit in there and not cover any of the adjoining plugs. Unlike one of the, you know, the thick power supplies that have the prongs on it that you plug it into the wall and that covers the bottom outlet. Yeah, that would be bad because I'm definitely going to need all 6 outlets on the prop car. So, alright. I was toying with it, I was thinking about doing it, thinking about not doing it. It's like, oh, what should I do? I just don't know. So I've decided to do it. Alright guys, so I just got through filming this whole thing about soldering and everything, and it took like 20 minutes. And I went back and I looked at it, and I'm just like, rambling, and I sounded like Ben Stein. I was like, and then you do this and this, and it was so boring and long that I had to redo it. So I want to simplify it a little bit and just say that tonight I want to teach you guys how to solder 2 small wires together. I know it's very small, but I'll hit on a couple points hopefully. So here's some basic things that you're going to need. Basically, you got your soldering iron. This is I believe it's a 35 watt from Radio Shack. Maybe it even says it on it. Does it say it? Does it say it? And, oh, I was so wrong. It's only a 30 watt. And you probably can't see that because it doesn't do really good close-ups. But it says 30 watt right there. See? See? Okay, so 30 watt soldering iron. And, of course, you want your wire. This wire right here is 18 gauge wire, which is usually good for connecting any kind of small current components, like small incandescent lights or anything else that, especially LEDs, anything that doesn't take a lot of amperage. I want to say a lot here in a couple minutes, so just ignore it. And obviously you're also going to need solder. This right here is rosin core solder. It's actually bigger than what I like to use, but it's the only stuff I had available tonight. And of course you've got your electrical tape, and I've got a bunch of different heat shrink tubing. You can get heat shrink tubing from Lowe's, from Ace, from Home Depot, from Radio Shack, or any kind of specialty electronics store. So let's see. So you got the soldering iron. You also need to get I'll pretend like I'm doing this for the first time. I'll flip it over. This is just a piece of wet paper towel. You want to make sure that you keep your solder tip nice and clean, and you do that by, yeah, I can do this easily. And I just plugged the soldering iron back in, so it's probably not warm enough yet. And that's one of the bad things about soldering irons, is they do take a long time to heat up. Once they heat up, it takes a long time to cool them off. So yeah, we're not hot enough yet. So we're going to let that sit for just a second. Your other alternative to use though is what's called a heat gun. and it puts out a lot more heat. This one here is rated for 260 watts. So basically all you do on it is you pull the trigger, you wait like maybe 5 seconds, and then the tip is hot enough, and I've been holding the trigger this whole time. Boom. Oh yeah, you like totally want to do this in a ventilated area, because if you don't, then you'll be killing brain cells, and we all need brain cells. A bunch of mine are gone. I used to be a huge electronics buff, and I used to make everything. I love the smell of solder. Some of it, the newer stuff does not have lead, the old stuff does, so yeah, all different wonderful chemicals going into my body, so do this in a ventilated area. This is your disclaimer. Alright, so the next thing is, and this actually comes with the kit. If you go to Radio Shack and you get a soldering iron kit, it comes with this stand, the soldering iron, and this is a heat sink. If you guys are doing a especially component for, like, if you're getting into transistors, resistors, capacitors, diodes, especially like computer chips, if you're doing any soldering, you want to actually clip this to it because it helps dissipate the heat so that you do not ruin your component. You can also use it if you have like a long enough lead on the wire, which I don't, because you usually don't need to heat it up for that long for this gauge of wire. But this is basically how you would connect it, and it just dissipates the heat so you're not going to burn the other side of the wire. But like I said, as long as your wire is clean, the solder should flow and adhere really well. So let me do this again. I guess I'll use the same piece. So we have 2 pieces of wire. I've just cut the tips off of them, and you want to make sure that your, like I just said, that your solder, or that your copper, excuse me, is clean. The way to do that, 2 different ways. You can either sit there and just clip the end off of it, and actually dikes are better for that. Bam. So, oh yeah, and that's funny. In automotive, what I work in, you've got so many terms that are like sexual. And electronics, the same thing. These are dikes, these are strippers. Oh yeah. So, anyway, I've got to put some bloody humor in this or else it's going to be dry. So, basically, strip your wires and get the nice, fresh, clean copper. Twist them starting from the inside out so that you have one single strand. If you do any kind of props that are moving, or if these wires are going to have any kind of movement on them at all, you want to use braided wire. Don't use solid wire. Solid wire is going to break and you're going to have problems. So, and I'll bet you the soldering iron is hot enough now. Basically touch solder to it, kind of flick it off, and rub it on the paper towel, and that gives you a nice shiny tip on the soldering iron. And doing this with 2 hands and holding solder and the iron and the wire all at the same time is difficult to do. So if you can like stabilize one piece, either the wire or the solder, like I've done, it's just sitting here on the table. Basically what you're going to do is touch a little bit of solder to the tip, put the tip of the soldering iron on the wire, and then just add solder as you go. And you want the solder to melt on the wire, not on the soldering iron, so that you should have a nice clean piece like this. And the solder you shouldn't see any copper. If you see copper, then you need to heat the whole thing up and do it over again. And if you have excess solder on the wire, just heat the whole thing up. And if you want to, you can either flick it too. I just flicked it. Alright, and that's called tinning the tip. So I'm also going to do this to this other piece right here. And again, every time you do this, clean your soldering iron. If you have any kind of, basically it's brown stuff, but it's burnt rosin on the tip of the soldering iron, it's going to give you either, it will give you unfavorable results. Let's just say that much. So, a little bit of solder on the iron, touch soldering iron to the copper, and then touch the solder to the wire, and you can bring this down a little bit too, kind of run the soldering iron down the wire. So now you've got a nice clean tip. And to put two pieces together. Very easy. One person commented that they use hot glue for insulation around solder connections. That's absolutely fine. I mean, that's going to keep the water out. You know, it may not be the most conventional way, but you know, it absolutely works. I prefer to use heat shrink tubing, and it comes in two different types. You can get regular heat shrink tubing, like I just said from Radio Shack and everything. It looks just like this, just like basically like a hollow piece of heat shrink tubing is what it looks like. And so you can use that. They also have like down at a marine store, I know, they've got heat shrink tubing that has a special kind of sealer in it, so when it heats up, it actually melts into the wire and it keeps out any kind of moisture or anything that can corrode the copper, because you don't want that. So we've got one wire here. Let me move this out of the way so you guys can see that better. And bring this up here so you can see this better. Now when you put two wires together, when they're small like this, you shouldn't even need to bring the solder to the wire. Basically, like I said, put a little bit of solder on there, and you've already tinned both tips. Put both tips right next to each other. Run the soldering iron on top until you see all the solder melt and it'll become shiny. Take the soldering iron off. It becomes dull, so you know it's done. And you've got a nice soldered tip, or soldered wire. When you guys, if you want me to expand on this, I can. I just didn't want to have this be a 20-minute vlog tonight, because I know I've been running really long on them. So here is the heat shrink tubing. Use your dikes and trim a little bit. And here's a really good tip. Okay, if you guys are putting two wires together, then obviously the wires go to something and they're probably connected to that something. Your heat shrink tubing, put it on before you solder. Can't tell you how many times I've screwed that up because I'll forget the heat shrink. And then, well, then maybe hot glue would be a viable option if you don't want to redo it. So slide it over, and you want like maybe a 1/4 inch on each side. And the two ways that you can do this, you can either use a heat gun, which is like a blow dryer on crack, which is this right here. This is a heat gun. It gets up to, well, they've got 1250, but I'm sure it's not 1250 degrees, but it would burn. It would burn you very much bad. So it's really hot. But you can either use that on this. I choose just to use a standard household lighter because it's nice and easy, and basically you just run it on the heat shrink. Don't leave it in any one spot. Turn the whole piece as you're doing it, and once it is around, or once it's shrunk, you can see it, and now you've got a sealed piece of joined wire. Alright, now I know I probably left a bunch out, but at least I didn't go and do this for like 20 minutes. So before I forget, I'm going to unplug the soldering iron, because I don't want to burn my house down. Again, that would suck. Alright, now I'm going to go in the other room, finish this up so I can get it online. Ooh, spooky music. And I do not believe I have any shout outs, however, bam! And you guys can't see what I'm looking at. Just kidding. Oh, first of all, dude, this is so awesome. 49 views on last night's video. Awesome stuff. So I'm appreciating everybody watching. Hopefully this weekend, actually, something really cool, like I said last night, is going to happen. So I don't want to say anything in case it doesn't happen and get everybody's hopes up, and then it doesn't happen and everybody's like, well, yeah, no. So, yeah, did you understand that? That was like lingo for something. Anyway. Alright, so I said I was going to do this. I want to do this tonight. Comments on last night's video. Yes, I did a new outro, and I just thought it was so funny. It actually made me laugh, because as I was doing that, the grr, arg, I was thinking, this is so funny, it's ridiculous, so that's why I laughed. But I've actually created a new character. I took a copy and I did some blood, so I'm gonna redo it and make it possibly funnier. Yeah, and last night, the car wheel that was on the video last night that I filmed down at the shop, yeah, that thing was about ready to fall off. The only thing holding it on was the nut and a cotter pin, and the bearings on the inside were gone. They were like dust almost. So yeah, I replaced all that, got them back on the road, and did it right. It works. Let's see, the Apocalypse 13th, funny outro. I will get the reverse lights working. I'm going to have to find, and oh, that's one thing I want to touch on real quick. The power supplies. I've ordered, or I've thought about getting, getting the power supplies for the rating that I need. And I sat back and thought about it last night when it didn't work yesterday, and I was thinking, that's where the thought came from. I was thinking that the maximum rating for that power supply would be X amps. So let's say, 4 amps. Well, I don't want to put that in a 4 amp circuit because that's going to be drawing the most off of that power supply that power supply puts out. So that means that the power supply could actually fail that much sooner. So I'm thinking that I actually need to go 1 amp higher than what I need, because as long as it's 12 volts, it's not going to take any more amperage than what the circuit needs. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do with the power supply, because I have to get another one because that 2.5 amp isn't going to work. So I want to get 1 amp higher than what I need for the reverse lights and the brake lights, and call it good. It'll be awesome. I'll probably order those tonight. No, probably tomorrow. And I can't wait to get the prop car done. Yes, Joy's a gal. I know. Ugh. It is going to be cool, but I got to get on it. I need to get it done. I actually came home tonight and I crashed for a little bit because I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning. So, I know, I'm stupid. And yes, Terror Clowns, that was your sign-off phrase. It just came naturally last night. It was like, happy haunting, take scare, and stay scary. I just did it. So, I hope you're not mad that I stole your stuff. And I guess that's it. It's hard for me to read and vlog at the same time because I'm trying to do things so quickly because this vlog is running long. So, with that said, if you guys have any comments or questions, 2 things. Shoot me your questions. If you guys have any questions, post them up. I will either answer them on the computer or on the vlog. Also, for new subscribers, because I know that I've seen subscribers that I haven't given a shout out to. If you're a new subscriber and I did not give you a shout out on the day that you were a subscriber, let me know. I would be happy to do that because all of you guys mean a lot to subscribe and watch. And if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Do it. It's free. So anyway, I guess that's all I have. So you guys, happy haunting. Take care. And I'll catch you all tomorrow.